Once upon a time, in the heart of a thriving Igbo community, there ruled a wise and just king named Akiola, a king that was deeply concerned with the welfare of his people, a king that has a vision for his people's prosperity. His reign was one of peace and prosperity, a time when the people had enjoyed progress and unity. The king, aware that his village was growing rapidly and in need of more space, decided to call a meeting of all his subjects. On the day of the meeting, the sun was bright and the air was filled with excitement. Villagers, young and old, gathered at the king's palace, ready to hear what their revered leader had to say. A leader who encourages hard work, honesty, and unity in his community, and always looking for ways to improve the quality of life in his kingdom. King Akiola rose from his throne and addressed his people with a warm smile. "My people," he began, "you are welcome to my palace. Let me first express my gratitude to all of you for coming on such short notice. We have enjoyed years of peace and harmony. Together, we have witnessed substantial growth and development in our community. But now, new opportunities are before us." He paused to let his words sink in. The people were silent. Their anticipation grew. "There is good news. The government has awarded a contract to link our community to the state capital, a project that will open doors for more trade, opportunities, and growth. Additionally, plans are underway to provide potable water and electricity for our village. We will soon be among the best connected villages in the region." The people murmured with excitement, exchanging smiles and hopeful glances. "But this is not the end of our journey," King Akiola continued. "As our community grows, so too must our infrastructure. We need a larger and more befitting palace extension, one that can accommodate all of us during important meetings and ceremonies. Our assembly hall has become too small for the size of our community, and it is essential that we build a new one." He looked around at the villagers, each person's face filled with curiosity. "I am calling upon each of you to lend your strength to this project. Let us build this palace extension together, using the talents and tools we have. Every hand, every heart, and every strength matters. This is your opportunity to contribute to the future of our community." The people erupted in applause. The king's words had stirred something deep within them. They knew this project would not just be a physical structure, it would symbolize the unity and strength of their people. Onowu, the king's trusted advisor and the voice of reason in the kingdom, a well-respected chief in the community, stood up with pride. "Your Highness, this is a brilliant idea. We shall all join together and follow your command. The work will be done as you have said." The king smiled and gave a grateful nod, then dismissed the gathering. The date for the project's commencement was set, and the people began to prepare. 3 days later, the palace grounds were alive with activity. The villagers, young and old, gathered at the king's palace, ready to hear what their revered leader had to say. The villagers arrived with all sorts of tools: shovels, headpans, buckets, wheelbarrows, carts, trucks, and even spoons. They were ready to build. Before the work began, the king stood before his people once again. "Let me remind you," he said, "this project is a test of our unity. We will not divide the labor equally. Work according to your strength." The king prayed, "May our efforts build not just a structure, but a future for our children." He raised his hand to flag off the commencement of the work. As the people began their work, Okoku and Okonta, the village jesters, appeared on the work site with spoons to work, yes, spoons, for a building project of such a large magnitude. They lacked the seriousness needed for hard work. "Okoko, Okonta," Onowu called out in bemusement. "This is not time to eat or play. We are building a palace extension. Why have you come with spoons?" "Onowu, we are here to work, and these are our working tools," they replied. Onowu laughed heartily but shook his head. "Well, I cannot stop you from working as you please, but I do hope your spoons are not just a joke." The work continued for hours. The villagers, some more skilled than others, worked diligently. The air was filled with the sound of shovels digging into the earth, wheelbarrows rolling, and the occasional laugh or cheer from the workers. Yet Okoku and Okonta could only scoop small amounts of sand with their spoons, making jokes and mocking the work. Unknown to them, King Akiola was watching from his inner chamber, paying attention to everything that was happening. His sharp eyes missed nothing. He saw the dedication in the faces of his subjects and the playful antics of the jesters, Okoku and Okonta, but most of all, he saw the strength of his community coming together to build something greater than themselves. After 1 month of hard work, the palace extension was finally completed. The once small hall had been transformed into a magnificent space, large enough to accommodate all of them during important meetings and ceremonies. The walls were decorated and the final touches were made. The community stood in awe of the beautiful building they had created together. King Akiola, filled with pride, announced a grand feast to celebrate their achievement and to commission the new assembly hall. The entire village was invited to the feast, and the aroma of roasted meats and fresh yams filled the air. The king stood before his people, his voice filled with gratitude and joy. "My people," he said, "you have done well. This is a great day, so eat, dance, and celebrate. Today, we stand before a symbol of our unity and hard work. This new palace extension will serve as a place for our meetings, ceremonies, and festivals for years to come. It is a place where we will gather to make decisions, to celebrate, and to honor our traditions." He paused for a moment, his eyes scanning the crowd. "But more than that, this project is a testament to the strength of our community. We built this together, each of us contributing what we could. And now, it is time for me to reward you for your efforts." A cheer went up from the crowd, and the air was filled with anticipation. The king stepped forward and commissioned the hall and then ordered the doors to be opened. To everyone's astonishment, the hall was filled with heaps of gold coins. The sight was overwhelming. "This treasure," he said, "is the reward for your labor. Each of you will receive a reward based on the tools you used in this project. For those who worked with wheelbarrows, you will take a wheelbarrow full of treasure. For those who worked with trucks, you will take a truckload. And for those who worked with spoons," he paused, looking at Okoku and Okonta, "will take a spoonful of gold." They looked at each other in disbelief. As the people began to collect their rewards, Okorie and Elijah, who had brought trucks and worked hard, took large truckloads of treasure. Okoku and Okonta could only manage to scoop a single gold coin each with their spoons. They left the palace feeling humiliated and regretful. The king, ever wise, had designed this reward system not just to give back what the workers deserved, but to teach them a lesson. Hard work, diligence, and the right tools would lead to great rewards, while laziness and carelessness would result in meager returns. Next, the king called Ndu forward and praised him for his generosity. "Ndu, you have brought an extra wheelbarrow to help a fellow villager. You have shown true community spirit. For your selflessness, I will reward you with an additional half-wheelbarrow load of treasure. You have done well." Ndu stood tall, honored by the king's words. He was a humble man and his kindness had been noticed by the wise king. The villagers cheered, and Ndu bowed deeply, grateful for the recognition. Meanwhile, Amadi, who had come to the project without any tools, also received his share of treasure. "Amadi," the king called, "although you did not bring tools, you still came to help. We will not forget your willingness to contribute. For that, you will receive your reward too. But remember, there is always a lesson in every situation. If you come prepared, you will always be able to contribute more." Amadi nodded, humbled and grateful. He had learned the importance of being prepared and contributing to the greater good. When it was Okoku and Okonta's turn to take their reward, the crowd fell silent. The two jesters, who had foolishly brought spoons, stepped forward, their faces flushed with embarrassment. They scooped a single gold coin each from the pile. The people, who had worked diligently with their wheelbarrows, trucks, and shovels, couldn't help but laugh. Okoku and Okonta stood there, heads hung low, feeling the sting of shame and humiliation. The reality of their actions had finally set in. "Your rewards reflect the effort you put into the project. the king said, his voice steady and wise. This is a small reminder that it is better to contribute fully, with sincerity and effort, than to mock the work of others. Okorie and Elijah, who had worked with trucks and had reaped the largest rewards, turned to each other, rejoicing. They had learned valuable lessons throughout the process, not only about hard work, but also about the long-term rewards of diligence and strategic thinking. We will invest wisely, my friend, Okorie said to Elijah. This gold will help us build a future for ourselves and for our community. We will not squander it. After the feast and the celebration, the village returned to its daily rhythms. The new palace extension stood proudly as a symbol of the community's hard work and unity. The people were content, knowing that their collective effort had brought prosperity and progress to their village. But for Okorie and Elijah, the real work
journey began. With their rewards in hand, they began to invest in their futures. Okorie, using the gold he had received, started building a large farm, growing crops and raising livestock. His farm soon became one of the largest in the region, and he employed many of the village's young people, including Okoko and Okonta. Despite his success, Okorie did not forget his roots. He paid his workers fairly, although not as generously as they had hoped. Okoko and Okonta, now working as farmhands, felt a growing sense of resentment. They were still living with the consequences of their past choices. One afternoon, Okoko and Okonta met and decided to approach Okorie to discuss their wages. Okoko pulled Okorie aside. "Okorie," he said, "why are you paying us so little? We are getting nothing more than a day's wage. You know we both had the same opportunity to be rich like you, so why are you treating us like this?" Okorie looked at him with a calm but firm expression. "Okoko, I am not treating you unfairly. You are receiving a fair wage for your work. Just because we had the same opportunity does not mean we all took the same path. I took my opportunity and invested wisely. You chose a different path. You played around with spoons when you should have been serious." Okoko's face flushed with frustration, and Okonta's eyes welled with tears. "But we are not all born with the same advantages," Okoko argued. "You have more than we do now." Okorie stood his ground. "We all had the same choice. Life is about the decisions you make. I am not blaming you for your past mistakes, but I won't be responsible for them either. I chose to move forward. Now, if you're not satisfied with your pay, there are plenty of other workers who will gladly take your place." Okoko lowered his head, realizing the truth in Okorie's words, while Okonta quietly wiped his eyes. They knew deep down that the real problem wasn't Okorie, it was the consequences of their own decisions. Meanwhile, Elijah, who had invested his treasure in buying more trucks, had become a successful building contractor. His business grew rapidly, and soon he was known as one of the most reputable contractors in the area. He was hired to work on the government's project to connect the village to the state capital, and his trucks were in high demand. "Elijah, you have truly become a successful man," Okorie said, clapping him on the back. "Look at you, building roads and helping your community grow. You are a true example of what hard work and vision can achieve." Elijah smiled. "It's not just about the work, my friend. It's about using our resources wisely. You and I both know that success is built on making the right choices." Together, Okorie and Elijah became true agents of change in the village. They invested in the education of the youth, building schools and health centers. They funded the major village festivals and ceremonies, using their wealth to ensure that their community continued to thrive. Roads were paved, modern markets were built, and the once small village began its transformation into a prosperous town. Meanwhile, Okoko and Okonta, still living with the consequences of their earlier foolishness, slowly began to learn the value of hard work. Bit by bit, they rebuilt their lives. Seeing their renewed effort and sincerity, Okorie took pity on them. He increased their wages, promoted them to supervisors in his farm project, and even offered to sponsor the education of their children. For the first time, Okoko and Okonta were given a genuine second chance at a better life. Okoko was appointed the supervisor of the animal section, while Okonta became the supervisor of the crop section. As the years passed, the village flourished beyond expectation. The community became a model of success, complete with modern roads, well-equipped schools, and functioning healthcare facilities. The wealth shared among the people lifted everyone, both rich and poor. Those who had worked hard prospered, and those who had once been careless were given opportunities to redeem themselves. King Akiola, in his unmatched wisdom, had seen the potential in his people and had led them on a remarkable journey of growth and development. His decisions shaped the future of the village, and his legacy would live on in the hearts of his people for generations. The village eventually became the most prosperous in the entire eastern region. His people lived in peace, unity, and abundance, and thus the story of Akiola the wise king reached its end. But the lessons of his reign would never be forgotten. King Akiola stands as the perfect example of a leader who understands the importance of encouraging collective effort while rewarding individual contribution. The palace extension project was more than an infrastructural improvement. It was a lesson in responsibility, diligence, integrity, and humility. The contrast between characters like Okori and Elijah, who wisely invested their rewards, and Okoko and Okonta, who treated their work as a joke, perfectly illustrates the consequences of life's choices. Okori and Elijah rose through diligence, discipline, and strategic thinking. Okoko and Okonta faced the repercussions of foolishness, but the story also highlights redemption. They eventually learned from their mistakes and were given the chance to rebuild their lives. Through it all, King Akiola's leadership demonstrated that while opportunity may be equal, what people do with it determines their destiny.